to the Tuesday night music show with superstar DJ Joel Loveless. We are hoping that someday Joel will find love, but until then, the man is loveless. We have our superstar producer extraordinaire and DJ, Mr. in Max's Kansas City, Mr. Howie Darkstar.
Hey.
In the house. We have Swingin' Jay Brannan from Temecula, California, fresh off a gig, 1 hour and done on a Tuesday, and he's celebrating.
So,
and I
needed a reason.
So I did something kind of out of character for me on Sunday.
Uh-oh.
I had a client meeting. Now, usually, before this whole pandemic thing, I had client meetings. What I would do is we would find a Starbucks that was mutually convenient for both of us, and we would go and discuss things, get to know each other, all that. I wouldn't take notes or anything, but I would just talk to him, and we'd kind of discuss maybe how some things should go. And then we would follow up maybe on the phone or something. I would make a timeline here in the office, and done. It's usually how it worked. It's kind of weird now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you might be able to go to Starbucks, but I don't want to have a meeting with a mask on. I just don't want to have a conversation with somebody like that.
I thought it was odd that it was an in-person meeting. That's like a first one that I know of.
Well, I know that a lot of people do Zoom meetings and things like that, but I actually know these folks. They're actually family, sort of, kind of. They're Blanca's family, sort of. But I know them. They know me. I've worked with them before, so they weren't really strangers. But we're not like people who know each other real well, but we do know who each other are. Long story short, I had a meeting in the dungeon, and it's something that I haven't really done before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw the pictures of the chair. It looked like, one of those chairs you tie a prisoner to.
Some of our kitchen chairs. And behind me, you probably can't see it, but stool and the dust chair is still there. I haven't moved them. It gave me a really good excuse to clean the dungeon.
It uses the lotion.
Oh, I was thinking the same thing, Jay. Did he bring lotion?
Yeah, I hope he brought a basket of lotion.
What was strange about it, though?
What's in the box? Oh, it's actually an American DJ Light. Oh, okay, good.
It will make you talk.
This is kind of like a personal space place for me.
Right.
I didn't design this for the general public. Oh, if you come to town, please come down to the dungeon. Let's spin some records and chill out.
I've been there.
Yeah, Jay's been there.
I've hung out there.
A lot of people have been
Nick
there.
Hahn's been there. Brian Daddle's been there.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
But typically it's not a place where I'm meeting people on a professional level for doing their quinceañera or their wedding reception or whatever. But this time they really wanted to meet in person. They wanted to exchange money in person. And they had some questions that they wanted to talk to me about in person.
Sure.
So the phone wasn't going to work. It was a quinceañera, so it's a mother, a father, and a daughter. So it's 3 people. That's a little weird when you're trying to have a 3-way phone conversation or whatever. They just felt like it would be better if we met.
That makes sense, though.
Exchanging the money. So this is what we did. Very out of character for me, though.
Right.
Not a normal thing. So what I thought we could talk about for the first part of the show, I thought might be interesting, is to talk about how we as DJs typically conduct our meetings and get to a place where we're ready to go. So I'm taking it from consultation to planning to we're all set, see you on the date.
Right.
Because we all do it a little different, right?
True.
Joel, how do you typically do it? Let's say that you get a client lead for a wedding reception. Do you typically meet with them in person before you book it?
Well, right now, it's just first thing's a phone call.
Right.
Initially, not too much detail, just to, the basics,
Sure.
and then try to set up some sort of, okay, I got an idea what I'm about to do. I got a date and a time. I'm starting to think about what I'm going to do and how I'm going to lay it out. And then after that, we schedule, a meeting, either a Zoom meeting or potentially a sit down meeting at a location to go over more details
Right.
at the time. And then, then kind of roughly say, okay, here we are. And we know what else, and then any little extra details, let's circle back at least one more time before the gig to finalize, and then you're ready to go.
When you meet in person, where do you typically do this?
Well, there's a lot of nice coffee shops in the area.
Okay. So just a
Starbucks
neutral
is
location.
kind of busy, but I like to find a little more quaint place out of the way. But
Sure. Yeah, you don't want to go someplace when everybody's in there going crazy. You want to find a nice quiet place where you can sit down and relax. Of course.
bars don't work because there's too much, it's too loud and everything else.
I've had clients that have wanted to meet me at sports bars. It's like, the TVs are blasting and people are cheering, and yeah, it's just a nightmare. I've done it, but
I have too.
I need to drink lemon water when I get home so I can get my voice back. How about you, Howie? How does it work out for you typically? Start to finish, how are you doing this?
Well, the last two COVID bookings, which I haven't done yet, but that was done through Messenger, actually, social media.
Sure.
I haven't gotten a phone call in years. It's typically, email or social media. And somebody announced they were engaged in town, and I said, congratulations. And they said, hey, thank you very much. We've been thinking about you.
Nice.
Can you send a private message? And I said, sure. And
of course.
it went from there to typically they don't know what to ask. So they always want to know what the price is. And I go, well, that depends on what you want, what your needs are, and where it's at. And then that developed the conversation. And, oh, well, we haven't really picked anything out. We don't want to do it at this, how do I say this? Like a VFW hall,
sure.
Like 50s.
Sure, community banquet hall kind of thing, yeah.
They said, we're looking for something a little higher end, but we haven't chosen yet. I said, no problem. So we don't really know a date, but we do want to do it possibly in the summer, but fall would be okay. I said, all right, fine. I said, here's a few places I recommend because I do a lot of work at the Holiday Inn. And they said they would check into it. And they agreed we're going to stay close. So then I knew, okay, I'm not traveling. And I gave them the price, the base price. And then I showed them the upsells. And they're very interested in it. And that's where we're at right now. I mean, I haven't taken a deposit because I don't have an exact date. So I wouldn't take money. And I don't take a lot anyway. I'm like you.
Yeah.
I take very little in the beginning just in case.
Sure. That's just how I like to do business. It's just
that's how I like to do it. And it's a week before, pay me and I'll be there,
Let me ask you this. During civilian times, I mean, we're all in a weird place right now with restrictions and such. But go back 2 years. How are you doing this as far as arranging meetings and things? Were you doing meetings in person? And if so, where?
The meetings that after the initial, contact, which was always on social media of some sort, then I would say, hey, Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks. And one time at the sports bar, and luckily we got a corner table, and that was a bit uncomfortable. But the coffee shops, it goes quick then, it's just, okay, you pretty much already know what they want, through the texting. And it's basically a formality of meeting them face to face, getting, a little more information. What's your theme? I always ask what the theme is, so that I can, give them upsells on like motion monograms and show them, my laptop. Like, look at this. Hey, here's a spotlight grand entrance, and, we do the first dance is everything. And it's only $250. And, if you have them in person like that, usually the guy is the one that's, holding on to the wallet, but he wants to make her happy. And she's like, oh, I want that. I want that.
Yeah.
I seem to get more upsells in person if the woman's there.
Yeah, I think in person is where I perform best with this kind of stuff too.
Yes.
Do you ever do site inspections with clients?
Oh, yes. If I cannot do a physical site inspection, Google is my friend.
Right.
And I'll work with Jimmy Spin because you can get on Google and you can get pictures inside of the place, like even past events. And one of the places, all it had was tables. It was a rummage sale with clothes and trinkets and whatnot. But at least I got the size of the room. And I do it by ratio. It's like, okay, here's a picture of the room. And I know that a doorway is 32 inches. And then I can estimate how wide and how long the room is, like that. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I know what I'm going to bring for sound and lights. And then, then I can give them a price based on what I have to bring. Okay, I don't need a helper this time. Sure. Yeah.
How about you, Jay? Is it going to be Little Debbie or Hostess? What's your favorite snack cake?
You know what? In a time like this, I may go Entenmann's. I might go with an Entenmann's. I might go with more of a larger because of not being able to get out of the house and buy other ones. Thank you.
Nice.
I'm listening to everyone's answers, and I'm in my head thinking back, and I'll give a fairly quick overview of, I lived in San Diego from 93 to 2004. When I lived in San Diego till 2004, the protocol would be something to the effect of, hi, we saw you, we heard about you, you were recommended, we know somebody, email.
Okay.
Can we meet? And I would meet. And in the beginning, I would meet them at their home or apartment. And the problem I ran into in the late 90s, early 2000s, was I made a comment in front of the officer that was my supervisor with San Diego Police Department on the crisis team. And I said, oh, I've got to get going. I've got to meet a bride. She's like, oh, where? I said, at her apartment. But it's just around the corner from the station, so it's all good. She goes, oh, do you normally meet the couples at their house? I said, I usually only meet the brides. And she kind of looked at me and she's like, oh. I'm like, why? What's the matter? She's like, I don't know if I would do that. Excuse me. And I was like, but I'm the DJ and they're the bride. And it was, we talked about it for a minute or two. And it was the last time I met with a client that wasn't a couple at their home. Mm-hmm. So I would be like, is your fiance going to be there? No. You know what? I'd feel better, and I think you'd feel safer meeting me in a public place. You know what? How about a Starbucks that's between you and I? Mm-hmm. And that way, if you want to get up and leave, we're in a public environment, and I want you to feel comfortable. Wow, I never thought of that. Thank you so much for thinking of that. But that was the protocol. Meet them in person. They hire you there or they hire you the next day, send them a contract. And then we hit that period of like, hi, I'm getting married July 4th, 2021 at this venue. Can you give me an idea of your package? And within about 6 months, a year, that went to, hi, how much? How much for what? A wedding. When and where? And we went through that until probably about 2 or 3 years ago. And if the meeting aspect came up, and I would traditionally answer with like, hey, I'd love to go over your special day. Do you want to set up a meeting somewhere between where the two of us live, Starbucks or something like that? And I bumped into a photographer one night who I'd worked with a lot. And I said something about meeting a client at Starbucks. She goes, you know what? I've moved to bars. She goes, think about it. If you're a husband to be, and it's 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, you got off work at 5, do you really want to have a coffee? And I'm like, no. She's like, yeah. So I started meeting them at bars. And the understanding is the meeting goes by quicker because they can't really start drinking heavy because they're meeting. And, you know, I limit myself to 2 drinks. They usually only have 1 or 2, but I find it relaxes them more. My bookings went up and the perception went up because they felt more at ease. So I then switched my protocol to, would you like to meet at a Starbucks or at a bar or restaurant in between us that works for all of us? And some of my clients adamantly were like, we'd prefer Starbucks. Starbucks it is. And then other clients were like, yeah, we'd like to meet a Carl Strauss. We'd meet a Carl Strauss. But you have to go into it knowing that you're in a professional environment. And if you're going to have a drink, you need to do that professionally. And I found, you know, you limit yourself to 1 beer.
Sure. I like it that you give them options. That's really cool.
Now what's happening, and it really blows my mind, you know, I'm going from Zooms to, I got an email on Sunday night. Are you available? I thought it was a joke. Are you available on this date to DJ my wedding? I'd like to book you. I am available. How did you hear about my services? My wedding coordinator. 3 emails later, I sent her a contract. I've never met her. We've never spoken. And she's booked me full fare, which 10 years ago would have been impossible to do. When I do meet with clients, and I have a client that I got today, they live in Corona, which, if you know my area, Brian, is probably, you know, 18, 20 miles, 25 miles north of me on the same 15 freeway. And I said, you know, I'm available for the date. Would you like to talk or meet? Or I think I said, would you like to meet up or discuss this on the phone or Zoom or whatever works for you? And she said, we're in Corona. Where would you like to meet? Where are you? So I'm going to give her a location between us, and I'll give her the options of a Starbucks or a bar. Then we'll meet. And what she will get when we meet, I will sit down with them and say, this is a questionnaire, and this is for this week's wedding. And I will fill this out. And then here on the back, I will jot down just to give them an idea of times. It's very messy, but it's really my notes of, hey guys, if your prelude is at 4 and your wedding ends at 9, anyone that told you you have 3.5 hours of dancing is lying to you. You know, your ceremony ends at 5, the cocktail ends at 6, dinner ends at 7:30, 150 people, and you have 2.5 hours. And that's not counting toast, cake, first dance, you know, that kind of thing. I also will go over one of these. This is an actual request sheet from a client that's on my website. So I like the paperwork. I like having them see that it's organized. And I like the experience of meeting with them. I've had 2 client meetings that I turned down in person. The first one was in San Diego, probably in 2001, 2002 at a Starbucks. And they had a TV on. No, it was at like a cafe, but they had a TV on with a sports game. And twice the groom said, hey guys, could you keep it down? I'm really trying to pay attention to the game. And the bride looked at me with that kind of. So I said, well, Gary, do you have anything for me? He's like, yeah. You know, play great music, keep your mouth shut. We'll all be fine. And I literally looked at the bride and I think she could see in my eyes I wasn't going to take her booking. And I was like, you know what? I think I need to email you when I get back to the office. So why don't we do this? I appreciate you guys making the time, but I'll email you some information when I get back to my office. I should be back there in like 20 minutes. It's just up the street. I got up the street, got on the email, and I said, hi, Karen. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a good fit for your wedding. I'd be happy to provide you with other names, but I'm not going to be an option for you to hire as a DJ. And her response was classic. She came back and said, "Thank you so much for making the time. I pretty much knew that when you left."
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "And I want to apologize. He's not normally like this." And that's fine, but I can't in all good faith accept an event if I know going into it it's going to be problematic.
Well, the problem here is that A, you talk too much, B, you're too damn good looking. So you're a threat. Okay. Joel's shaking his head. He's like, "Yeah, dude."
But the thing is,
I want to bring my bride to be to meet this guy. Hey, here's the DJ. And she's like, "Oh my God, tall, dark, and handsome, Temecula."
But see, right. Well, it's the Temecula part, the swing part. I really want to meet people, and I want to meet them for twofold. One, I think the connection in person is always much deeper than the connection on Zoom, on the phone, whatever other methodology you're using. Mm-hmm. But two, you know what? I want to see the way you guys act. Like if you're a couple of hillbillies and you're acting all crazy and you're talking about how there'll be meth and this stuff's coming out, this is a good example of where I don't want to be there. Like, Sure. The same way you're not going to hire every vendor, not every vendor should hire you.
Right.
Right.
And it's not a standard of you need to be better and that's why I'll do your wedding. No, but there's certain protocol. I said I had an event today and I said to the sound guy something about when he was gone when I got there and they had a stage with a little band playing and another DJ. So I show up, I set up my 2 speakers, my setup, my X stand, the whole deal. And he comes back, he goes, "You set up your own sound system?" I said, "There was no one here to plug me into that one. I was hired and told to bring 2 speakers, table, my controller, and do my gig." He goes, "Wow, it's been so long since I've seen a DJ come and do exactly what they're supposed to." I was like, well, that's what they're paying me to do. So I'm not going to get, "Oh, dude, they got a sound system. They got an SX2. Yo, dog, you think I could just hook up a laptop and wiki this thing?" No, I got paid to do what I did. I've got photos of my setup. So if somebody says, "Hey, we paid you," you did, and look what I did. And I think we as DJs sometimes need to stop and realize we've worked very hard to get to where we are, and it can all be taken away in a second. And I need to know. I met the worst review I ever got from a wedding, and most of it is incorrect, and I can prove it with Serato history. So it's not like it's my word. It's actually showing what songs I played. But I did a wedding years ago, and at the meeting at Starbucks, a bird flew into the glass, broke its neck, and dropped dead on the ground. And I didn't take that as a sign that this might not be the wedding to do. Fast forward 6 months, I do the wedding. The brother asks if he can toast. The bride says, okay. The brother's been drinking. The brother had just gotten out of a 30-day rehab. And the brother stumbles through the toast, and where the bride got the most upset was when the brother said out loud, and I'm talking to him going, "Dude, you're a Marine, 26 years old. What are you doing with my 15-year-old sister?" And like the whole room went,
whoa.
And when I met them, I didn't get the best vibe. And then afterwards, after the wedding, the owner of the venue came clean and said, "Oh yeah, they fired a photographer, they had a videographer, they canned him. They just couldn't get it together with any of their vendors. They were never happy." I'm like, "Why didn't you tell me that?" He's like, "Well, I thought things were going well with you guys." I'm like, "No."
I have a question for you. I've got to go back about 10 minutes into your
Before I took it off the rails?
Yeah. I have a legitimate question here because I want to stay on topic just for one more minute before we jump ship and do something else, which you can do whatever you want. I don't care. When you were showing us your question
planning form, yeah,
and your song request list, I understand that's your paperwork, so you can get information and take it back to your office, wherever that happens to be, and do something with it. Are you using any kind of DJ planning software that you're sharing with the client, or are you building things custom, or are you doing a combination of both?
Combination of both.
Explain.
The music is coming from DJ Intelligence.
Okay.
I have my playlist up there. I have the catalog up there. I allow all my clients to open an account when they're hired. They can go in and pick what they would like. And I tell them, the wedding last Saturday went very well, and the bride and groom were most impressed because they gave me 10 songs. The wedding this coming Saturday, and I told the bride and groom this in a phone call or two, that I said, just so you understand, you've picked 5 hours of music. Like, the account goes to 5 hours, but no one goes there. You already went there.
Right.
Well, we love music. I'm like, I do too. But like, we need to have an agreement. And they said, what's that? I said, A, play only what you want from your list. And if the wedding fails, it's on you. Or B, the better alternative, give me the list, cut it back, and let me read the crowd and fill in gaps. Well, where are the gaps? I said, the gaps will be, you want 3 Paramore songs and 4 Drake. We love Drake. I go, that's great. But nobody loves 4 Drake songs at a wedding.
I had a very similar experience last week.
Yeah.
Very similar experience.
Yeah, and I'm like, let me do my thing.
I'll tell you all about it after you tell me how you plan the rest of the wedding, because I understand your requests. I really want to understand what you're doing for your timeline creations. Is this something you're doing in an open Word doc, or is this something that you have a special software for?
Because, as you know, and people may not know this, I spent 7 years as director of entertainment on a yacht company.
Right.
And weddings on yachts are much different than on land because you can't get to the boat. The boat has to leave by Coast Guard criteria. And if the boat leaves at 10, but we have to come back and get someone, and we can't get back till 11, that hour's gone. You don't pick it up on the back end. So early in my career, I learned to write these timelines that are super specific. Like 5:03, begin prelude. 5:37, do this. And I still write that way. I write all these timelines, get typed up. So what you're seeing is notes. But if you look at the notes, they're specific.
Sure.
And then I type it up. And I send it to the bride and groom, and I say, give this to your photographer, videographer, and your venue. Let the venue know what your expectations are and your anticipations, because your venue may say to you, believe it or not, guys, if you haven't heard this, it's true. Wedding ends at midnight. The venue may want to do the cake at 8:30 because they want to cut staff at 9. Well, if dinner ends at 8:15, I might sell them on 8:45, 9, 9:15 on the cake. And once we're comfortable, that's kind of where I go. So I oftentimes get that phone call of, the venue says they do cake at 8:30. I'm like, the venue's cutting labor. If you want to do the cake at 8:30, that's fine, but you're going to lose X percent of people because they've had a good meal, piece of cake, and now they're going to bounce. So I'd really rather give you a half an hour of dancing. So it's genuinely a template, Brian, that I made up 22 years ago.
Yeah.
And then every wedding timeline changes to what it is, and I move it around. But I do it as much for me as them because I don't want to miss anything. And, all the specifics are there. It'll say like first dance, what it is and all that.
Well, I got 2 things. I want to tell you how I handle the timeline, and I want to tell you how I handled my Cardi B, Drake, DaBaby playlist last week.
Right. Just
before I do that,
half second, only because if I don't say this, it won't make sense. The other main reason is this goes in a manila folder the day of the wedding. So if God forbid something happened to me and you had to send someone there, they have the timeline, the special songs, the names of the couples, the intros, like everything that's needed to walk in and pick up. And it's in the same folder that has my hard drives. So you could physically show up. If you had that folder, you could do the whole wedding without an issue because everything has been either crated, foldered, written, typed, or is right in front of you.
So I'm going
Go
to
ahead,
have
I'm
Howie
sorry.
time me on this. So give me 60 seconds. I'm going to get all this out in 60 seconds. I want to show that it can be done. And go. So the first thing I want to talk about is how I handled the playlist last week, where I had the client who wanted a lot of hip hop and things like that. Young couple. I said, hey, look, I'll do whatever you want. They had I think 32 requests, which is quite a bit. I said, let me do a family hour. So what's that? I said, well, that's when I just kind of play the cha-cha slide and things for your grandma and grandpa and silly things. You may like them too, but it's kind of for everybody. Let me do that, and then I'll play whatever you want. Reluctantly, they said they'd do it. They did it. We went 2.5 hours with it, and they loved it. And then we finished the night with their requests. Next, I wanted to talk about timeline. I do that too, but I tell the client the only times I'm concerned about is what time you eat, what time I start, and what time it ends. Everything else is fluid. Because it's
always in motion.
If it's too rigid, it freaks them out. It does my clients anyway.
Well, you know what, Brian, though? You know what you tell your client? Tell them what I tell them. When I write this, I say to them, this is an outline. The reason I'm so specific is because in my head, I'm like, this is what I'm trying to hit. But more importantly, if you send this to he did it in under a minute. If you send this to a hotel.
He got interrupted, I think.
That's okay. I was done.
He was done.
I'm just busting him.
Done.
If you take the template I have and send it to a coordinator at the property, and I tell every client this, every client gets this same speech. What this says is you are very organized, particular, and have expectations that need to be met. Now, you and I, the client, and me, the DJ, know that what's going to happen is we're going to do prelude, ceremony, cocktail, intros, dinner, toast, first, second, third, dance, cake, garter, bouquet, this, end. But what I want your hotel and other vendors to know is that you're on top of things and they need to bring their A game. Because otherwise, this is what will happen. Yeah, we're going to do ceremony and I think we're having prime rib. Okay, cool. You are now a victim of the system because the system works for itself. And what I mean by that is a property, a venue, whatever you want to call it, will write the timeline that best makes their labor numbers work.
Yes.
Gets staff out of property fast and gets everyone home quickest. They're not concerned about the bride and groom's happiness because this isn't their goal. Their goal is it's another event. Your event, which is your wedding, to me is the only gig I'm worried about that day and that year. So I want your gig to be perfect. I want it to be tasteful and classy. I don't care if I'm at a VFW with Papa John's Pizza. I can give you the classiest wedding you've ever had. But in order to do so, there are levels of expectation that need to be met and addressed. And that, to me, is a timeline. No, I'm not hitting the numbers, but I'm letting the staff know it's an expectation.
So let's see. Jay used to meet clients at home, but doesn't anymore. Now it gives him the option of Starbucks or a bar. Does his music on what you
DJ
say,
Intelligence. Yeah, DJ Intelligence.
And makes a timeline, makes it rigid to intimidate every other vendor, but doesn't necessarily stick to it.
Not to intimidate, but to let them know that the bride and groom know what they're doing. Because I tell the bride and groom, don't say it's from me. Don't say my DJ gave me this timeline. Tell the venue, this is our timeline. Because then the perception is, oh shit, this bride and groom have got it down to the minute. We all know this to be fact. If you go into it blinded, everyone will take advantage of you. And what I mean is they'll take advantage of, they'll make it work for them, not you.
Like the vendors will, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
It's
how many times have you done a wedding, Brian, where the this happens to me almost weekly. The event ends at 10, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Photographers are over at 8 o'clock at night. When are you doing garter bouquet? I'm like, 9 o'clock. Oh, I'm out of here at 8:30. Why? This event doesn't end till 11. It's 8 o'clock. Why are you leaving 2.5 hours before? Well, I don't really need any dance photos. Well, you know what? I don't really give a shit what you need. Well, because the bride and groom want to dance for 20, 30 minutes, do the cake. Then they're doing an anniversary and a honeymoon dance. And then we can do the garter. Well, can we do the garter bouquet first? I'm like, that's not what we talked about. Well, I'll go talk to the bride and groom. And to their credit, 100% of my clients, you know what they do? They come over or they send the photographer back. But either way, the question is, what do you think? And I always say the same thing. I think we should stick to the timeline. Because what happens is once all the events are done, it's a clear sign to a couple. Like if my beautiful wife and I went to a wedding on a Saturday and we had a babysitter and the babysitter is scheduled that our wedding ends at 11, we should be home by midnight. But it's 8 o'clock at night and we're on the dance floor and all of a sudden everything's done by 8:30. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look at my beautiful wife and go, let's get out of here. Let's go get a drink. Let's go downtown. Let's go hang out at First Ave. Let's do something. We have almost 4 hours. We're done. What about the wedding? What about the wedding? There's nothing left to do but dance. Like every guest at a wedding knows what events are coming. Once the events are all done, that's a clear sign. You're free to go. If you don't want to dance, it's okay. You can now leave. And that's why I try to push things a little.
For the audience, we're not really talking about wedding planning anymore. We're talking about something else. And that's okay. Because we
I
think it's still wedding planning. I still think it's wedding planning.
Howie has input.
All right.
What I have found most successful for me, which happens about half of the time, I wish it happened more, is to meet the couple at the venue when they go to do the site inspection at the venue.
Yeah.
And then I get to meet the coordinator. But before that, I do a hybrid thing because I do have an app for the phone that from that app, they can customize the timeline, much that you just hold your finger on, move up, okay, cutting here before this or that or whatever. So we agree on the timeline. I can just hit print and it prints it out for me. And then we go to the venue and it's like, how does this work for you? What's your input? And then we have a final thing between the venue manager, the wedding couple, and myself. And we're good to go. A photographer going to say, no, I need to change. I agree. No. That's something, you would take care of, before.
You try to get it early. But my only issue on site is everyone's going to agree with everybody. And then the reality is, I don't know about your market, Howie, but here in my market, 100% of the people you meet with on a Wednesday afternoon with the bride and groom, they're never going to be at the wedding here because you're meeting with a salesperson. You know what I mean? Like, this person sold the wedding to the bride and groom. This is Rachel, their friend. She sold it. She's happy. She's excited. Then when I get to the wedding, this is Stella. She's the banquet captain. And that's Gary, or she's the coordinator day of. And then that's Gary, the captain. So I'm going to deal with those two to a certain point. And then there's really, I don't know who's left in charge.
Well, I've actually had a thing, just like what Brian said. Look, all I need to know is, when's the food coming out? When does it start? When does it end? Everything else is fluid. And, we go from there. I had that experience with the one where everything was just perfect, years worth of planning. And, the coordinator got in a car accident 2 days before and somebody else stepped in and said, oh, well, here's how we're going to do it. And I said, no. Right. We worked on this for a year. Here's the timeline. It's all printed out. Everybody has copies.
Sure.
No, that's not how we do it. I go, no, wait a minute. You misunderstand something here. I work for the bride and the groom.
Yeah.
And so do you. The food is coming out at 3 o'clock. That's all you need to know.
The one thing that
and that was it.
The one thing I will interject here is when I say everything else is fluid, what I mean by that is not that anything goes whenever. What I mean by that is
right.
The times are tentative that I have on the timeline that I've made. That doesn't mean that I'm going to shuffle the order of things. We know what we need to do.
Right.
It may not happen exactly at 9:03, but it's going to happen before this and after that. That's what we'd like to do ideally.
And I try to push the cake cutting as late as possible because you're going to lose a third of the people right
Right.
after the cake cutting.
100%.
You're gonna lose Jay because Jay's
Oh, he's
taking
ready
a
to
flight
go.
and
Him
they're
and
going
Michelle
out
want
to
to
the
go to
bar.
First Ave or wherever they were talking
Jay's
about.
out of here.
You know what though? It's so interesting to hear you guys talk about how you really want to have these formalities drawn out because you want people to stick around to see them. And I get that. I used to do that a lot with the grandparents. It was in our Jay and I have talked about this. The structure of a Wisconsin wedding, as far as times goes, is very different than what's going on where he lives in California wine country.
Yeah.
We're generally 6 hours, 6 to 12. There's 4 hours of dancing involved there. So what we would try to do is keep people around for the garter bouquet toss, which typically was happening around 10 when everyone did the garter bouquet toss. Well, nobody does it anymore. It just doesn't
Right.
happen. They
Yeah,
might
it's fallen out of favor.
They might do bouquet
It
toss.
has.
If they do, it's very impromptu sometimes.
Right.
But what I've noticed is what has changed is that the people at my events want to party at the event. They don't want to bail. They want to be there.
Yeah.
I've said
no,
them, dude, my sound
you-
system's cool. I'm playing cool tunes.
Right.
Stick around.
It's
I've had such good luck with that.
Yeah, but Brian, there are people who've left, and I'm sure you've had this too. I've gotten a call from somebody after the fact and been like, yeah, are you available for this date? I'm like, yeah, what do you have going on? Oh, we're doing a wedding. I'm like, oh, awesome. Congratulations. If it's a phone call, it's like, yeah, I was at, Brian and Blanca's wedding. I'm like, oh, back in July. Yeah, dude, you were awesome. We just want to hire you. I'm like, oh, cool. No way. That's awesome, man. What kind of gave it for you? Well, I didn't dance once. What? I didn't dance once. But it wasn't too loud. The mixes were good. The music was good. The vibe was good. I don't dance. My groom this past Saturday said to me on the phone, I'd never met him. And he goes, I said something about dancing. And he goes, dude, I don't like to dance. I look stupid. I'm like, nobody looks stupid. He goes, I'm 6'6", 350. My fiance is 5'5", $110. And I'm like, I don't see where that makes you look stupid. He goes, trust me, when you see us, you'll see what I mean. They didn't look stupid. They looked in love and they looked really happy.
They weren't.
By the way, quick thing, if you find in your market, and this happens with me a lot, I do a lot of anniversary dances, and this past Friday was no exception. And the groom's mom and dad were married the longest. And I said, can you find out what their first dance was without asking? He goes, what do you mean? I said, just mention you're talking to the DJ, talking about songs, trying to figure out your dances. Like, hey, what was your first dance? See if they know. Sure as shit. Mom's like, oh, it was Unforgettable by Nat King Cole and Natalie King Cole. So he goes, oh, okay. Yeah, I don't even know what that is. I think we're going to go with this country song. So I said, just skirt the issue. Now, Friday night shows up. I call the anniversary dance, bring out all the married couples. I start playing Unforgettable, and I can hear his mother 10 feet away go, oh my God, this is our song. And I don't say a word. Couples married less than 5 hours, please leave the floor. Bride and groom bail.
Sure.
Next, get up. Finally, boom, you guys win. How long? 30 years. Oh, that's amazing. 30 years. Congratulations. Do you remember your first dance? It was this song. I go, you got to be kidding me. They're like, no. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. Now, I know for a fact, because I've had contact with the groom, they never figured out that they told the bride and groom what their first dance was. And at the end of the night, what I told them, and I'll tell all of our viewers, if you're not doing the garter and the bouquet, traditionally the florist gives a small throw bouquet. Tell the bride, if she's going to do the anniversary but not the bouquet, to take the bouquet and give it to the longest married couple as a gift.
Right.
And let me tell you, it is a huge moment. And that's what we're creating. The end of the night, I put a video on Instagram and Facebook. I had 9 people at the last song. Or no, 12 people out of 60. Very last song of the night, 12 people on the dance floor. Bride, groom, family, whatever. End of the night, talk to the bride and groom. Hey, how was it? We couldn't be happier. Everyone danced all night. We had the greatest time ever. This is the perfect wedding. Their perception of the night was everything you want to hear. And afterwards, the bartender's like, because I work with him a lot, he goes, man, not a lot of dancing tonight. I said, yeah, it was different. You know, a lot of country, a lot of this, a lot of that. He goes, but I'll be honest, the bride and groom were over here raving. I said, the perception at the end of the night that I want is of happy bride and groom because they're writing the review. They're selling me to the next client. It's their night. Just like we talked about the timeline. No, it's not etched in stone. If you get to my wedding and you say, Jay, we don't want to do the garter bouquet now or the anniversary, it's done. There is no, I'm sorry, it's on the timeline. We have to do it.
Oh, right.
You know, so even though it's written so precisely, it's there with the understanding that it's an outline. So I don't forget, oh, damn, we're doing the anniversary and it's not King Cole. Okay, good. It's on my timeline. It's just, like everything we do, Brian, with weddings especially, you need tools. You need some help to get the job done. If it was a nightclub, like today, I showed up and hit play. Started mixing tracks, a lot of reggae, a lot of this, a lot of that. There was no direction. It was, you're DJing at this, you know, pot shop because it's 420. And if anyone's wondering,
I got a story about that, by the way, before we wrap the show.
But yeah, so it was the exact opposite. But I still showed up early and treated it like it was a friggin' wedding because I think we do our best work when we understand how important our work is.
We're recording this show on 420.
Yes.
I don't know when it's actually going to be broadcast. So for those of you who don't know what 420 is, I'd explain this to my mom and Blanca. 420 is, I don't know, the day they
Adolf Hitler's birthday.
Cannabis in California, right?
420 is the resolution number of the
is it?
legislative bill.
Well, see,
I knew we'd find Pothead in the group.
Well, the reason I brought it up was because I'm sharing something personal with you all. I was pulling into the driveway tonight and I was listening to BPM on Sirius XM and the DJ said happy 420. And it occurred to me, it is April 20th.
Yep.
And the reason it was kind of funny to me is because I'd forgotten all about April 17th.
I was going to say, yeah, I didn't see any posts on Facebook.
Well, Jane knows because he's my friend.
Yeah.
But what's important or should be important about this April 17th is
11 years?
10 years post-stroke.
10 years. Yeah, 10 years.
Now,
10 years.
I'm not a stroke anniversary guy. I don't get a cake. I don't talk about it. I don't care. I usually forget about it like I did on the 10-year.
So it's 11 this year.
No, it's 10.
It's 10 years.
2011 to 2021.
Oh, it is. Okay, 10 years. Okay, when you said 10 year, I didn't know if you... Okay.
No, not 10 year. No. Couple things. It's cool because just to let everybody know, it comes up. It's not that it's never an issue for me, but I don't make it an issue for my life. It's not that important to me to put that date in my head and celebrate it. The only reason I know the date is because if I ever have to go see a doctor, they'll ask me when
say the YouTube happen. Live show.
I'll have the date, right?
Yeah.
But otherwise, I don't care. But the other cool part about it is I haven't aged 1,000 years in 10 years. I'm happy about that. Now, I'm not suggesting I look like I'm 12, but I don't think I look older than I am.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see 50 years old. In a month from today, I'll see 50 years old.
That's awesome.
So these are milestones that I'm kind of happy about, but I'm going to mention it here, but I'm not going to make a big thing of it.
Right. Well,
it's not a big thing.
I was going to say, your big thing would be to have 2 doors on your car so you could drive the bus.
That's more important.
That is more important. Yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's how I would do it too. It'd be like, yeah, okay. What are you going to do special? I'm going to drive the Mustang because I have 2 doors on it now.
Yeah, because I've been working on doors since October. We got one on.
Yeah.
We're still working on the other one, but it's
Yeah.
like in the 30s. It snowed today by the shop, so we're still not quite in hot rod weather yet, but we're close.
Well, come out here, bro. We're in the 80s, 88 degrees.
We did that, and then it went away. So
I think we might be here to stay.
we aren't.
No, in my market.
We have in your market.
Yeah. Saying, bring the Mustang out here.
Oh wait, there, yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm saying we're in the 80s. It was 88 degrees today.
Yeah, but then I got to deal with traffic.
Well, you're in the Mustang.
Yeah, but I don't have air conditioning in the Mustang, so I don't have the breeze anymore because I got to sit there.
So what you got to do is you got to go to Palm Springs where it's dry heat.
Yeah,
so you don't sweat.
Got to do the.
But there's no traffic.
Drives like I'm like. What the end of Less Than Zero, constantly going past the windmills, heading out to
on the 10. By the way, the other night I thought of you because Jim, who is he LA County or Riverside County, Howie? I can't remember.
I can't remember either. I'm sorry.
I think he's LA County, and I feel terrible saying no. I think he's LA County Sheriff.
He's in San Dimas.
He was in San Dimas the other night driving around. And then Tom comes on from his house, and like 5 minutes later, Tom's got the phone in the van, and it's like, "Where are you, San Dimas?" And all of a sudden, Jim's in like his photo, going like, "Hey man, where are you? What are you near right now?" And he's like, "I'm not telling you." It's like, "I see you. You're by Home Depot. Hold on a second. I'm lighting you up." And it's like, poor Tom got freaked out. He was like, "Oh my God, how do they know where I am?" It's like,
for the viewers at home. In the chill room, we have an officer of the law
who's a DJ.
But his phone, he tunes in with his phone, but he's parked somewhere.
Yeah.
And
he's
another
like out paperwork.
Goes out every night and gets tacos. And he's driving with the phone with him, driving.
Still in the chill room. Yeah, driving. So you just see a view of him driving.
And the police officer who comes in the chill room says, "Where are you at?" And that's where that's the backstory.
I'm going to find you.
Yeah.
The thing
Man, it's been 10 years, huh?
10 years. Yeah, 10 years.
Wow.
But you know what? It's a non-issue, and that's what's so cool about it. If it was an issue, it wouldn't be cool, but it's a non-issue, which makes it cooler.
I mean, you got to admit, I mean, it's pretty inspirational, Brian, because it's not like you've got that, that really movie-esque story of, well, I spent 6 months rehab here and I did this, and this. You kind of just broke the rules of like, yeah, okay, I'm fine, I'll drive. Like stuff like that. Like I remember that video of watching you drive and I'm like, yeah, he's not supposed to be doing that.
He doesn't care.
But he doesn't care.
Right.
He doesn't care.
But he's doing it. And then I drove with you, and I'm not going to lie, got in the Suburban and your beautiful house with, you and Blanca. We're going to get cigarettes in Starbucks, and you backed out. And the whole time I just was sitting like this. My eyes kept darting over like, all right, if he needs help, what am I going to do? But the whole time it was fine. It wasn't fine like driver. He did great for a stroke guy. He just drove really well. It was fine.
I've always been a good driver. I don't mean to sound like Rain Man, but
no, but yeah.
I'm a good driver.
But Brian, you gotta and I know I'm not here to tell you how to feel because it would be very unfair of me. But there is that sense of like the people like you that aren't doing anything that you have to sometimes stop and say, wow, I wonder if I am an inspiration to others, because I certainly think you are in the DJ community. I mean, your name gets brought up quite frequently where I'll tell people, hey, by the way, you're complaining about this. Brian's really working with one arm, and he's doing it with this event table and his speakers and everything by himself. Like, stop and realize not only can it be done, but the guy is doing it, and he's not coming on Facebook asking us to praise him for it. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going like, hey guys, got out of bed today, somebody give me a thumbs up.
I am not trying to Yeah, I don't. Everybody's journey is different, I guess.
Yeah.
But and so I'm not here to criticize. It's like somebody comes to me and starts complaining to me about anything from their hangnail to cancer. It's not a competition. If you got a problem, you got a problem. I'll listen.
Right.
You know, it's not a my dog's bigger than your dog kind of thing. Everybody handles things different. I totally
exactly.
understand that. But what I will say, just me personally, I don't belong to any clubs. Like I'm not a joiner. I'm not a political party joiner. I don't belong to church. I don't belong to a support group or a league or a committee or anything. I'm not that guy. I do my own thing. So when you're doing your own thing, you don't have to listen to anybody else's doctrine or follow it. So you do what you feel like you should be doing. And I just felt like I should be living my life.
Ladies and gentlemen, this meeting was brought to you by not only the Neil Young fan club, because that's how Neil Young sounds, but it was brought to you by The Hangover. Think Lone Wolf.
And on that note, we'll just put a fork in this one this week. Thanks for being patient with us.
We have to go almost empty.
Yeah, and I hope you enjoyed Jay's monologue this week. Joel got about 30 seconds in. Howie, I think.
That's a start. At this rate, in about 12 years, these guys will have a couple minutes to throw out.
Well, I think Howie got 2 minutes tonight.
I really enjoyed your inspirational story about the dead bird. That was up.
I should have known enough to leave then. I should have literally gotten up and said, I'm out. I'm out. I'm done. Yeah. Should have on the spot been like, oh my God, that bird just committed suicide. Like, I'm done. I should have lied and been like, my heritage, my people understand this to be a bad sign. I have to go. The Irish? Yeah. It means it's almost last call.
Yeah.
It's trained like this in Dublin, so I gotta go. By the way, just real quick before we get off air, I have to make a comment. I don't know if anyone caught the Pioneer DJ Happy Hour with Mr. Brian Dowdle.
I did.
But much love and respect was shown for a certain, when I asked the tough questions, because that's what I'm known as, the guy that asked the tough questions. Actually, Brian was super happy with my questions, and I was too, but made more than one reference to a certain DJ. Hold on, I'll think of his name. He's from Milwaukee.
I guess I have to watch.
Oh God! For the life of me, I can't remember. And then another guy's name got brought up by the host, Howie Whitestar.
Yes, it was a color of some sort. Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, but yeah, no, Dowdle dropped your name like. Psh. I was like, well, what about this? And he's like, well, mutual friend of ours, Brian S. Red. I think he called you Brian S. Red.
You probably did.
Yeah. I was just like, okay, we're going to get down that road, are we? Well, Brian had told me this and I did this. I'm like, that reminds me of Howie Darkstar and his iPad.
And the producer was ignoring my question. He said, if you have any questions, put them in here for Brian. And Brian was monitoring the chat. My question was, what album did you listen to today?
Oh, I think it got brought up on the show. I think he brought it up.
He held up New Order.
It was Depeche Mode. New Order.
This is what I was listening to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now, well, I mean, it was
Rockstar.
He is such a great guy.
He's so nice.
Such a nice guy. Yeah, he really is. And just couldn't be, never had a bad experience with him. He brought up our friend Scott. I brought up how he got in the company and this and that. And I like it was yesterday hanging out on the side, remember Riviera where check-in was? Going out to the parking garage?
Yeah.
Hanging out there in the smoking days with Scott and Brian, and in like 5 minutes learning the entire structure of the Beijing Lighting Corporation. And walking away shaking my head like, what did he just say?
What just happened?
Yeah, like I think he just schooled me on like foreign policy. It was awesome. By the way, next show, I wasn't kidding. I've had 5 people DM me and say, were you joking? No. The next Happy Hour on May 6th, the guest will be Grammy Award-winning producer and remixer Deva Day, and DJ, producer, remixer, and Finnish Grammy Award winner, a guy by the name of Darude. You may have heard of his song Sandstorm.
Yeah. My friend Mika went to school at Darude.
Really?
Very cool.
I'm very excited about that. And when I
Very cool.
first brought it up to everybody, they kind of looked at me like, well, the happy hour is about the DJ experience. And like, now the word's gone out and everyone's kind of turned back around and gone, yeah, you were right about this one. I'm like, yeah, I told you.
So if you didn't hear, Jay does the happy hour.
Which is a
Every
stretch
day?
for me.
No.
Thursday,
Every
right?
2 weeks. It's
Thursday.
First and third Thursday of the month.
First and third Thursday of the month.
And,
Check
and
out Jay's
it's,
Pioneers Happy Hour.
Yep, and I don't know how I got it.
Our Pioneers Happy Hour.
Pioneer
brought to you
DJ's
by
Happy
Jay
Hour.
or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. I get to drink different beer.
Howie, well, you can always just find Howie wherever.
You can find Howie at any good event, any classy event, or in the tri-state area, pretty much on a Thursday, any Kmart. I think that's his day to go. And of course, Joel, IT guy, who's probably hacking my system right now and clearing all my bank accounts. So you always want to be nice to Joel because he'll take everything.
Wave, say goodnight.
He can do it.
Good night, all.
Take care. Peace. Till next week. Bye, John.